morning time and this is during night time and we are just starting
Ghost
ghost tour. And this is our aquarium. And it's about to start around 7:30.
First thing. Oh, I remember when Atlanta had two houses.
Yeah, bye Maria.
Yeah. I was telling her I watched a show.
Yes.
It's a beautiful home on an island, large yard, large house.
Hopefully not.
Almost terraces. Well, look at that. They didn't get the location. And they had to go outside the location. And they got like a 2-bedroom, tiny little place. That's about right. We're going to stop right here. Yeah.
Stopping right here.
Yeah, we're going to circle around here,
Oh
everybody.
yeah, this I noticed.
Best we can. We got everybody? All right, I like to point these out. Y'all can see them by there, y'all too. This is what's called a dolphin downspout. That's not a dolphin like flipper, it's a dolphin fish, often called mahi-mahi. Look at its face, isn't it quite creepy? Yeah. Now, it was placed here in the 1800s, mid-1800s, made out of cast iron, and they're placed outside of homes or buildings to ward off evil spirits. Kind of like a gargoyle a little bit. Now, some people thought they were good luck, because ship captains thought it was good luck for dolphins to follow them out to sea. And we don't have too many of them left anymore. During World War I and World War II, they're confiscating them, using them for the war effort. So we don't have too many. We do have some throughout the city, but not too many as we used to. So there's one house that has them painted white.
So since these have been in place for so long, how old are these pipes running up and down?
Oh, these probably been replaced.
Okay.
These are original. Yeah.
Okay.
These probably not too big, too old. Yeah, these are not original. These are. There's another version too, an older version. It's a little bit taller. I'm going to show you on another house. It's a little bit skinnier mouth at the bottom. So these are more detailed. But people walk by them all the time have no idea what they are. So I like to say, tell you what it is because I find them quite fascinating. But yeah, it's called dolphin downspout. Should we make our way this way? If you go to River Street, you can get a fake one. Made out of rubber. You know how you put on here that box.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And they have in the basement of the restaurant is a piano bar.
Cool.
This square doesn't have that Spanish moss, right?
Yeah.
I can see the Spanish moss.
Yeah, this looks scary. The tree is like so dark. No, I'm not saying. I don't.
We should get one of those
You want to bring the whole thing as a commitment
yeah.
to detect ghosts?
The next place I'm going to show y'all is this building right behind us here. This is one of my favorite places to eat today. It's best food. It's called the Old Pink House Restaurant and Tavern. If you get a chance there, the food is very excellent. And the atmosphere is very nice too. The house started being built in 1771, put on hold during the American Revolution, completed around 1781. Built for a man named James Haversham Jr. He was a wealthy merchant and planter here in Savannah. Now the Haversham family was a family divided going up to the Revolution, because what happened was we were the youngest of the 13 colonies here in Georgia, and a lot of the older men here in Savannah were what's called loyalists or Tories, and a lot of their sons were part of a group called the Sons of Liberty or Liberty Boys. And what happened was the Sons of Liberty, they conspired against the British, and they met in a tavern over Broughton Street called Tondy's Tavern. Now today they have redone Tondy's Tavern as over on Bay Street now, but the original one was located on Broughton Street. So all three of the Haversham brothers were Sons of Liberty, and their father was a Tory. So there was a lot of families, unfortunately, that was that way here, and not only here, but other states too, that were divided. Ben Franklin's own son was a royal governor of New Jersey, so that was a total divided family. So what happened was, when the elder Haversham died in 1775, he was never able to rekindle his relationship with his three sons, and so it felt a little bad about that. But anyway, they all are buried together at Haversham Vault at Colonial Park Cemetery, and I'm going to show you all that later on. Now, James Haversham Jr., who built the house, very proud of the house and loved having people visit him, and he's still there today. This story is featured on the Travel Channel show, America's Most Haunted Places. Now inside there, you can kind of see in the windows a little bit, but they have sconces on the walls, they have candlelit tables. It's just a nice atmosphere. And one waitress, her job at the end of the night was to blow out all the candles in the dining room upstairs on this end. So she went in, she blew out all the candles, and she went around doing some other jobs before she had to go home for the night. Well, something told her to go check the dining room before she went downstairs. She's glad she did, because she went in and the candles were relit. Well, she's like, well, I really blew them out, but then she saw smoke in the air where she blew them out earlier. A waiter was downstairs in the main dining room here, and a couple had just gotten up, so he was laying in like a nice tablecloth down, new place setting. And something started grabbing the tablecloth, and he was trying to maneuver, like a tug of war with him. He couldn't see what it was. He said, I finally just gave up, and I'll deal with it later on. A couple was upstairs in the dining room this end, they're top floor there, and enjoying a nice night, and the lady looked over by the fireplace, saw a very distinguished colonial man just standing by the fireplace. Next thing you know, he disappeared. She thought it was a reenactor. There's another good place here in Savannah to eat. It's called the Pirate's House Restaurant. Kids love it because they have pirates that walk around and they have excellent food. And so she thought it was a reenactor, so she inquired with the waiter. And the waiter said, let me get the manager. Brought the manager to the table. The manager says, tell me for a second. Inside the house hangs a portrait of James Haversham Jr. on the wall. And when that woman saw that portrait, she froze. She said, that's the man I just saw a few moments ago. Well, she really freaked out when he told her, oh, he's the original owner of the home, who died in 1799.
Oh.
I would have freaked out too. Now, the basement area, see the staircase there going down? That goes down to the basement, which is now a tavern. Now, if you wanted to eat in the restaurant but didn't want to go in the restaurant part, you can order off the menu in the tavern. And some people just want to go in the fancy restaurant, they just want to eat the food and can't order in the tavern. And the tavern is a nice area. They do have a piano player down there, a man and a woman, and they're both really good. And the tavern is haunted by a slave boy, and they call him Magumbo. I think he's around 7 years old. And he's very mischievous, like most 7-year-olds are. They often hear it sounds like dice being thrown up against the wall. At night, the staff put chairs top of the table. They come back next day, the chairs just all over the floor. He has been known to throw wine bottles out of the racks. A bartender been down there for about 20 years working, and she's been hit in the head a couple times with some wine bottles. That probably hurt, I think, so bad. A daytime waitress said she was giving a tour down there, and the supply door opened and closed right quickly. She said very unusual was the light normally comes on when the door opens, but the light never come on. Now the funniest thing he likes to do down there is lock the ladies up in the bathroom. Now this has happened to two different people that I'm aware of. When I drove a trolley for many years, and I did ghost tours on the trolley, and I told the same story. And on the trolley company, we end our tour at the Pirate's House. And so I had a lady come up to me at the Pirate's House. She says, I got stuck in the bathroom. I said, you got to tell me the story. And she said her husband and I had just gotten in the night before, had no idea about Magumbo, wanted to have a drink, went to the tavern, and she goes, I went to the restroom and I got stuck. She figures it's an old building, you know, the door's probably old. She started pulling on it, twisting on it, and it wouldn't budge. Finally, she started banging on the door, and sure enough, it opened up. And then one of my personal friends here in Savannah actually got stuck in the bathroom too. It got so bad, the manager got so tired of hearing complaints about ladies get stuck down there, they actually took the locks off the bathroom door. But still this day, some ladies get stuck in the bathroom. So feel free to try it while you're here. And if you don't get stuck, it's still a nice place. Now everybody wants to know how it got its peak color. Well, it was originally built made out of red brick. Later on, somebody covered up white stucco. Red brick lit on the white stucco, giving it a little bit of a peak color. It was a little bit lighter than it is today. In the 1930s, a lady bought it and turned it into a tea room, and she painted the peak color it is today. It's remained peak ever since. It's also used as a bank at one time. Has anybody ever read the book Gone with the Wind? It's probably my favorite book of all time. The Haversham family had a set of twins. They died at the same battle, the Battle of Atlanta, and Margaret Mitchell used those Haversham twins for inspiration for the Tarleton twins in the book. So yeah, there's a little Haversham trivia there for you. We're gonna head this way, so y'all follow me.
You gonna go back?
Oh, okay. I was like, well, you had to go to the tavern because I don't know any other over here. So how y'all like a Savannah so far? Faces south because his end was a Spanish fort where you have the last and it's right
The light up.
They're both facing the south. They're everywhere.
Yeah, we were
No, I don't know why West is facing south. A lot of people don't know who West is.
Oh, you don't?
I don't like who he is.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, I know who he is.
Sure you do.
Oh, I know who he is. Yeah. Founder of Methodist. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why he's facing south.
well, you have to face some direction.
That's it. That's probably better for me.
He could be laying down facing up.
Yeah.
That's where he's headed.
And his brother Charles was a famous songwriter. His one of his famous songs was Hark the Herald Angels. Wes reminded me of yeah, he Tiffany actually wrote Streets Made Out of Dirt. Stuff made me respect. That's a creepy hearse tour. Yeah, there it is.
Oh my god, do not want triggers on your butt.
This year
They're
you might be
so
okay.
hard to get rid of.
This year you might be okay. Somebody not too long ago said
Yeah,
you
because
were
I sat on the ground. When I was younger, I was camping and I sat on the ground. I didn't know I was sitting on Spanish moss. And all of a sudden my butt was really itchy. And it took like days to get rid of them. Oh god.
That's so bad.
They hurt. They hurt.
Yeah.
Like poison ivy.
Uh-huh.
That's why I said they put Spanish moss in my hair. Ooh,
So-
silly or what?
Did they have to shave it off?
Weird, I thought. Really, really weird. No, it was this time of year, so there were no bugs in it, luckily. He were being silly. We got everybody?
Cover your head.
All right. Now, this is one of my favorite house museums right here. This is the Owens Thomas House. If y'all get a chance to visit a house museum while you're here, really good chance to check it out because it's really nice to see how they lived back in those days.
Mm.
Now, this house is about 1819. The whole inside is completely decorated 1820s. It's very beautiful and very elaborate. There's a bridge on the second floor. There's one room that's
Curved doors.
completely circular. It's the first house that have running water. Very unusual for the 1820s. You can see the basement how the big cistern is. The staircase here is going to open our staircase. Because back in those days, the man would go on one side and the ladies on the other. Except if a man saw a lady's petticoat, he was supposed to marry her. And it also looks like two open arms are welcome into the house. House was haunted by the last owner. Her name's Margaret Thomas. Margaret was born in the house in 1860. She died in the same bed, the same bedroom she was born in, 84 years later in 1944. Now, she was a spinster. She never married or had any children. One strange thing she liked to do was dress up in her dead mother's Victorian clothing and have parties and teas. Maybe why she didn't have a husband, not Liz Clinton. But she really enjoyed doing that. She enjoyed it so much after she died, her family and friends got together one last time and had a party in her honor. And that story is quite interesting. They invited the Savannah Morning newspaper to do an article on it. And so when the photographer arrived here, I guess his bosses didn't inform him what was going on. Because he walked in, he said the house was dark, they had a birthday cake, and they said the candles were flickering against the wall. And all these ladies were dressed up in black mourning outfits. And he asked one of the ladies, he goes, "Where's Miss Thomas?" And she goes, "Oh my dear, you didn't know she's dead." And then he took off running. I guess he thought it was a seance, who knows. But she likes to mess around with the staff. She will move furniture around in here. There's a dining room chair that she likes to pull out as if she was eating there. That happens quite a bit. Also, one of the staff members opened up one morning and there's a puddle of water on the floor. It was nowhere near a window, air conditioning, anything that could have caused that puddle of water. The most sightings she gets to see in the house is in her bedroom. I'm going to show you a bedroom window here in a minute. And also the back garden. We'll see that here in a second too. Now, when she died, she had no heirs. She willed it to the Telfair Academy, which is a very nice art museum in Telfair Square. They have owned and operated since 1945. Now, back in those days, if you were to tour the house, you'd only see the main level. They rented out the second level as luxury apartments. Of course, today when you visit the house, you get to see all 3 floors. They have been restored. Now, is anybody familiar with the book or the movie Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. For those not familiar, the main character, his name was Jim Williams. Jim was an antique dealer here in Savannah, and the book and the movie had to do with him involved in a murder trial. But a lot of people don't know is Jim actually restored over 20 houses here in the historic district. He was very involved in the restoration movement in the early days. He also was the owner of our most haunted house here. It's called the Hampton Lilybridge House. Now, unfortunately, we don't get to see it on tour because where it is a whole row of houses, and they're all privately owned, and they have complained so much to the city about tour companies going by there. Not so much walking tours like his, more like the hearse and the trolleys, because they are kind of loud. And so the city has put a strict regulation in place, so we're not allowed to go by there. But I always tell people where it is, because it is a nice area to go around. It's really pretty. It's in the Colonial District. It's the only house that has what's called a widow's walk on top, which is a porch on top, where it was made that way so the ladies can watch out for their husbands who are coming home from the sea. Also, there's a little plaque on the outside of the Hampton Lilybridge. It's the only house where an exorcism was performed. Jim actually had the exorcism performed. He said it lasts about 2 weeks and then come back. Now, the reason why I talk about Jim here is the next story has to do with him. Now, in the late 1960s, he did know a good friend of his actually rented out one of the apartments upstairs, and he told the story to the Savannah Morning newspaper. He said he and his other friend came to visit his friend late Sunday afternoon, having a nice visit, and all of a sudden a ghost of a man appeared in the room. He said he had very large, like he had like dark hair, but he had like a large outfit on, like a big jacket and like ruffled shirt, pants, and like a riding outfit, kind of like from the 1830s somewhere in there. And he said the ghost just kind of made his way across the room, and then it got over where Jim was at, and Jim said he had the most piercing blue eyes you ever seen. And next thing you know, the ghost disappeared right to a wall. Now, Jim said where he disappeared in the wall would have been at one time a door. So Jim was familiar with the original layout of the house. They just covered that door up when they made apartments. And he asked his host, he said, "Did you see what I just saw?" And the host said, "No, I didn't see anything." He goes, "Do you experience anything here in your apartment?" He goes, "Yeah, I hear weird things every once in a while." He says, "I never ventured out down below in the nighttime because it is quite creepy." So he probably witnessed Margaret down there. Who knows? Let's go on the side and I'm going to show y'all Margaret's bedroom window. It's recorded. I don't know about this apartment building.
இந்த அபார்ட்மெண்ட்ல ஏதோ இருக்குப்பா.
மச்சான் எப்படி சொல்ற? I know.
ஒரு மாதிரி
Light.
நான் சொன்னா கரெக்டா இருக்கும் உங்களுக்கு தெரியும்.
Bedroom when she lived in the house. So the staff, that's where they have the most signs for, is in this bedroom. And we have had people walk around here at night who look up now and see there's like a woman appearing out the window. We have also had pictures of orbs here in this area and also mist in the window as well. But this is her most sighting in the house, is in this bedroom. I'll show you her garden here in a second. I love the ironwork here. Isn't that pretty? Mm-hmm. When you see a lot of ironwork like this, it means they're very wealthy. With a status symbol. This balcony also played a very important role. In 1825, the Marquis de Lafayette of France came to Savannah. He's a big hero who was an aide-de-camp to George Washington. Also, he was very instrumental in getting French involved before. The French did not get involved, we would have lost. And he came here in 1825, laid the cornerstone down for the Nathaniel Greene monument I showed you earlier. He gave a speech right from this balcony right here to all of Savannah. And they said half of the speech was in French and half was in English. Let's go here and go see it.
You want to take a pic?
Now, when Margaret gets seen here in the garden, they say she has a large hat on and like a shawl wrapped around her shoulders. Now, the president quarters is right here, and the upper levels here can look down into the garden. And the guests stay there often look out their windows, and they see a woman walking around here in the garden at night. And they'll tell the staff, and the staff says, you're seeing a ghost, because this is a house we was in that closed down at 5 o'clock every day. We also having a function, which at a function you see a lot more people out here. But yeah, she gets seen here a lot at night. You see how nice the garden is. I would be walking in there too. And we have a lot of weird stuff happen here in the garden. People take pictures. A lot of times the flash does not work. We had one lady take a picture and the whole picture turned out green. Just weird stuff. Now, there's a lot of activity somewhere. It can affect electronics. Squares on that side of Oglethorpe too. People forget about. I always say just visit, just walk, start walking around. You'll probably at least stumble on some really pretty places. I always tell people they got these little hidden gardens. If you look at a lot of the houses, like on the other side of Oglethorpe Avenue, they have these townhomes. They have these hidden gardens, and people don't mind you looking in the garden windows. Not the window, the window with the gates there. And you see a lot of iron gates are real pretty. I forgot to tell y'all where that that house I was telling you about the most haunted house on St. Julian Street. Now, a minute ago, we were at Reynolds Square. You know where the old Peak House was? A minute ago, that was Reynolds Square. If you were to keep on going straight and not cross over Broughton, you'd hit Warren Square. This is between Warren and Washington Square. So just remember, George Washington is on St. Julian Street, and that's our colonial district over there. And y'all really would enjoy that because a lot of the houses, like I said, are real colonial style, wood. It's just a really nice. A lot of people tend to forget that area, but it's really a nice place to walk around. This building right here is called a carriage house. And you'll see lots of carriage houses here in Savannah. This is actually quite a large carriage house. There are some smaller ones in this. Carriage houses play very important roles because the bottom here was where the horse and carriages would have been kept, and the second floor was where the slave quarters were located at. Now, some families opted not to keep their horses in the carriage houses of their choice. We know for a fact there was 2 horse stables, one over in City Market and one on this end, the historic district. Decided to turn it into an inn. Now, 1820 was a very bad year for Savannah. We suffered 3 tragedies. In January of 1820, we suffered a major fire. Over 470 buildings burned. It started in that horse stable I told you about in City Market. A lantern landed on a bale of hay, caught fire, and all the houses there were wooden, so just went one house to the other. It actually stopped the backside of the Pink House. Pink House was actually saved. And then later on that year, they had a yellow fever epidemic where over 600 people died. And then later on, they had a hurricane. So 3 things in 1 year. So horrible. I can't imagine what these folks went through. So what happened was they decided not to name it 1820. They thought it was a bad omen, and they stuck with it. Now, it's haunted by a young girl. Her name's Anna Powell. She was around 19 years old when she arrived here in Savannah. I think she got here like around 1810. We know she was here prior to it being a hotel in 1820. Now, she arrived with a much older husband. He was about 25 years older than her, and he was very wealthy, and they stayed here as a boarding house. And he stayed with her for many months, and he ended up going back to England to handle some business, and Anna wanted to stay here in Savannah. So she started making her way around town, checking things out. Somehow she made it where River Street is today. That's where the docks were located at that time. And she met a young German sailor around the same age as she was, and they fell in love. They had a whirlwind romance. She felt a little bit bad about cheating on her husband, but she only loved his money. It was probably an arranged marriage, who knows. And she loved the sailor, but guess what? He didn't feel the same way that she did. He jumped on a ship and left Savannah. She was devastated, could not imagine not being with him. And so what happened was, she knew her husband would be back in time now. She knew what was going to happen because back in those days, married women didn't act that way. She goes, I love Savannah, I'm going to stay here forever. So what she did was, jumped out of the window on the 3rd floor, laying on the sidewalk. About a couple days later from her injuries, I'm going to show you her room here in a minute. It's room 204, and they call it Anna's room. If you stay there, you probably will experience her because she likes to let you know she's still there. She likes to take things and move them. She's taking wallets, she's taking jewelry, perfume bottles, personal items. The number one thing she targets is ladies' undergarments. I think because she's jealous of ladies. A lady laid some laundry on the bed, took a shower, come back, the laundry was gone. A couple went to dinner, they put the suitcase on the bed, didn't open it. Come back, the suitcase was wide open. all of that lady's underwear was gone. Now that man was so upset, he had to confront the manager because like, what kind of creepy employees you got? My husband does the same thing too. And the manager says, hey, hold on a minute, let's look at security camera, see if anybody been in the room. And security camera, nobody had went in the room the whole time they were at dinner. They said, we're going to look for your wife's underwear. And they found it stuck behind a planter at the other end of the hallway. Now, she likes the men. Men that woke up in the middle of the night with their cheeks being rubbed gently or their arm being rubbed gently. One man woke up, saw a woman sit at the foot of the bed, very long hair. His wife was sound asleep next to him. And next thing you know, she disappeared, but there was an indentation in the bed where somebody actually was sitting. They often hear it sounds like a woman crying in the room. The phone will ring, there's nobody there. Now, years ago, if you stayed in the room, you had to sign a waiver. If you left in the middle of the night because you were so scared, you would not get a refund. Now, it's a very popular room. People really want to stay there, so you don't have to sign the waiver anymore. History Channel came to film an episode of Haunted History, and they really wanted to film inside the room, but something was blocking the door. They were not ever allowed in the room. And it surprised me because 79 really wanted them to film it there, so I don't think they would have locked the door. They had to film outside the room and also outside the hotel. Now, Miley Cyrus was here filming a movie a couple years ago, and she and her mom really wanted to stay in the room. They actually stayed in the room, and she sent a letter documenting what she experienced in the room. If you go in the restaurant, they have a whole book in there, people that have written letters, and hers is one of the letters in that book. If you go in the restaurant is haunted by a former cook. It's a lady who's involved in voodoo, and she also wore lots of jewelry. And they often will hear it sound like bracelets like jangling in the kitchen. She also did not like any other women in her kitchen. She was very possessive of her kitchen. And the ladies that work in the kitchen say they have weird things happen to them. Not the men, only them. So it's going to sound like I'm going to show you in his room. Look at the window there. It's strange.
That is creepy. Nothing's worse than a woman's round, especially to people I just see.
Take it out.
Nice.
There's someone really looking at.
Somebody really is standing.
Y'all see her up there?
I think that's
It's
a
a mannequin.
It's a dummy.
Don't get
Okay.
scared. What I tell people is take a picture of her, but don't tell your friends it's a mannequin. Because it makes a creepy picture, don't it? Now, where she's standing is actually a hallway. If you look to the window to the left, there's a door. Her room was on that end. My theory is people staying in the room do not want to look at that at night, so they put her in the hallway. I wouldn't want to look at that myself. But that's their claim to fame, so that's why they have her in the window. And people love taking pictures of her because she is quite creepy. We were on tour one night and somebody was over there moving her arm like she was waving to us. I think if I worked there, I would definitely have to mess with the ghost tour down here.
Yeah, I would do that.
You know?
Why not?
Because people love looking at her and she is really creepy. And you can't really see her up close, but she has no face.
That's even worse.
Yeah, she has no
Oh.
face. They could have done a little bit better job, but nah. Yeah, just
I just hope they don't turn the face
oh,
now.
the
Just
daytime turn, you
refresh
can
them.
see her. Yeah, when they have it open. Sometimes they have the shears right in front of her, but they have it kind of open tonight. But sometimes they have it right in front of her, you really can't see. But yeah, but everybody likes to get a picture of Anna. It does make a pretty picture.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
We're going to talk about that here in a minute. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. All right, we got everybody? Okay, the first house we're going to talk about is this house right in front of us here. It's our Isaiah Davenport home from the 1820s. Remember we talked about the dolphin downspouts earlier? If you look over here on the end of the house here, that's the older style of dolphin downspouts there. See how a little bit taller. This has a little mouth on the bottom there. Now, this house played a very important role in the late 1940s and 50s. They were just tearing houses and buildings down for no reason. That's why you look over here, you got a colonial style home right next to an apartment building. Back in those days, this area was really seedy, dirty area. Believe it or not, it really was. It really wasn't a very nice area to go around. And I'll show you how bad it was. We started in Johnson Square at the beginning of the tour. The next square over is Ellis Square. A lot of people probably gone that way going to City Market. And up until the 1950s, a big open-air market sat there. That's where City Market got its name from. In the 50s, the city completely destroyed that market and made a parking garage there. That parking garage sat there about 9 years ago, and the city decided they wanted to rebuild Ellis Square. So what they did was they put a parking garage below ground and rebuilt Ellis Square. And we're glad to have Ellis Square back because that was one of the original 4 squares laid out by our founder, General Oglethorpe. But that's all they were doing. In the 50s, they weren't caring about nothing. This house was going to be bulldozed down in 1955. 7 ladies found out about it, raised $23,000. A lot of money in those days, and were able to save the house from wrecking ball. These 7 ladies created what's called the Historic Savannah Foundation, which is still in place today. If you ever buy a house or building here in the historic district, want to do any kind of restoration anyway on the outside, it has to be historically accurate, even the color. And it has to go through an approval process. But that's how we want it. We have the largest historic district in the United States at 2.2 square miles. So we want everything looking nice and historical. So we thank the 7 ladies for that. And when they bought this house, it was completely in bad shape. It was used as a tenement for many, many years. They had to completely gut the whole inside, and they restored it. It took them many years to restore it. They made their headquarters building until the 80s, and then they moved across the square. That's where their headquarters is now, and they turned this into a house museum. Now, this biggest difference between this one and the other one we saw, the Owens Thomas is really fancy furnished. The Davenport family were Scottish Presbyterian. They didn't believe in a lot of fancy furnishing, so it's modestly decorated. But it is a beautiful house museum. Now, back in those days, when it opened up as a house museum, you could wander wherever you wanted. Now you have a tour guide and areas roped off. And these 2 ladies were on tour in the 80s. They make their way through the house. They go upstairs where the 3 dormer windows were at. There was a child's room up there. They had a bed, rocking chair, rocking horse, some other things in there. And the lady looked over in the window, and over in the corner by the window was a rocking chair. And there was a little girl in the rocking chair just rocking back and forth. If they think about it, they thought it was weird. There was no parent around. So they make their way to the gift shop where you start your tour. They mention the lady in the gift shop, and she goes, "That's strange. I've been here all day and had a single child on tour." She goes, "We got to find this little girl. Maybe she snuck in somehow, maybe a neighborhood child." So they go through all the rooms, checking for this little girl. They can't find her. Go upstairs, they don't see her. As they're coming around, there's a window that looks on the back garden. And one of the ladies looked out the window and said, "Oh, there's a little girl. She's in the garden." They go to the garden. There's no little girl. They said, maybe she come out here to the square. So they come out here to the sidewalk, come to the square. They don't see any little girl at all. Then one of the ladies looked up, and there she was in the middle of the dorm window looking down on them. Now, we're not sure who she is. She could have been one of the Davenport children. She could have been another child that died in the house. Numerous families that lived in the house. Now, they have people on the daytime tour that have witnessed seeing this little girl. Ghosts don't only come out at night. They come out during daytime, too. People have asked the tour guides, "Hey, is the little girl over in the corner dressed in period dress? Is she part of the tour?" And the tour guide says, "No, we don't have anybody dressed in costume." The house is also haunted by a ghost kitty, an orange and white tabby. This cat has been seen for many, many years. The first sighting were in the early 1900s. People have seen this kitty in windows, places like that, floors, all over the place. Also, people feel like a cat rubbing against their leg, and they look down, and there's no cat there. Now, they make a big deal about the ghost kitty. If you go in their gift shop, you can buy your own ghost kitty stuffed animal. Now, I do have a picture here, but we're just going to talk about this house first, and I'll show you the picture, okay? Now, this is what I love about Savannah. So many styles of architecture. Yeah, very traditional style here, New England style, the 1820s. And look at this house right here in front of us. This is our Kehoe house, the 1892 during the Victorian era. Victorian era was known for bigger and fancier. Now, if you look at the house, you see the columns here, the stairs, the window trimmings, the balconies. All you see on the house, all you see is iron. That's not all wood, that's all iron. Mr. Kehoe is owner of the iron foundry here in the city. And remember we had a lot of fires here? He thought the combination with the iron and the brick make a pretty good fireproof home. And that's why he did it. Now the family moved in here in 1892. They had 10 children. Mr. Kehoe didn't enjoy the house very long. He died in 1900. And when he died, his wife informed their children that when she died, she expected them to buy the most fanciest coffin and the most fanciest wagon and put on the most fanciest funeral you ever seen. And that's what she expected. Well, she died in 1920, and guess what? The kids forgot all about what she told them. They found the cheapest coffin and the ricketiest wagon. That's what they put her in. You tell me she probably wasn't a very nice lady, huh? Well, guess what? She was so mad, she jumped out of that coffin, but right back in the house where she is today. Now today, this is probably one of our most prettiest bed and breakfasts, and it's really, really beautiful. You can look in the windows here and see how decorated it is. It's so nice. Now they refer to her as a lady in white, because she makes an appearance. She has a white flowing gown on. Now the night clerk said it was a really quiet night, nothing was moving, nothing was stirring, and she felt as if somebody was watching her. And she glanced over by the main staircase, and sure enough, that was where the lady in white was. And then she disappeared. If you look at the windows down here at the bottom, that's the basement area. But also they have rooms down there, and the laundry room is on the other side of the basement. It was a very hot August day, and all the guests had gone through all the towels, and a worker was down there collecting towels out of the dryer. All of a sudden, she got very cold. Well, you're not going to get cold in a basement in a laundry room in Savannah in August. And sure enough, the lady in white made an appearance. And that worker was so scared, she kind of prayed for her to leave, and sure enough, she left. And the worker said, I will never, ever go in the basement by myself ever again. Now, Miss Kehoe's personal room is upstairs, the second floor, that curvature room right there. That was her personal room. A couple was staying in that room one night, got woke up by a very loud woman screaming. And then they heard what sounded like somebody falling down the stairs. They go running out the hallway to find out what was going on, and the couple across the hall heard the same exact thing came out there, and there was no one out there. Now, the first Friday of every month, they do a big fireworks show on River Street. It's really cool. It's really neat to see. It was one of those Friday nights, and a couple stayed in Miss Kehoe's room again. Last minute, the wife said she was too tired, didn't want to go to River Street. She just wanted to lay in bed and read. So she's enjoying her book. All of a sudden, she heard the fireworks going off. Then she heard the door handle, like somebody's trying to get in her room, and heard a girl's voice saying, tell them to stop, we are scared. She goes, it's okay, don't worry about it, go back to your room, where are your parents? The little girl says, we don't know. She said, well, go back to your room, it'll be okay, it's almost over with. And that's all she heard. Well, she was so concerned, she mentioned to the clerk at the desk the next day, and the clerk looked at her very strangely. She says, well, that's weird. We don't allow any children to stay in the Kehoe house, only adults only. So it could not have been an actual child. Now, what happened was the Kehoe family sold the house in 1930. It got turned into a funeral home. This was a funeral home for over 50 years. Now, when it was a funeral home, the family owned it. They lived in the upper part of the house where the attic is and the floor below it. And staff says when they go to the attic, they store stuff like chairs, tables, things like that. They go in the attic, they often will see a nurse ghost appear up there. And we think it could be a child's nurse because that's probably where the children's room was at one time. Now, I was always intrigued about if anybody stayed there, they tell them it's a funeral home because it is very expensive to stay there. And I had a couple of my children that were staying there one time. They told me, yes, they do tell you it was a funeral home. I said, that's good. I said, right here in the front parlor, where they do their wine and cheese, that's where they had the viewings when it was a funeral home. And the rooms right down here were the embalming rooms. He goes, oh goodness. He goes, guess what? We're staying in that room right there. I said, you're staying in one of the embalming rooms. And the reason why I know it was an embalming room is what happened was when the funeral home closed, it sat vacant for a little while. And one of my friends here in Savannah actually went in the house and it was vacant. He said, oh yeah, both sides of the staircase there, both rooms were embalming rooms. They left gurneys there, all the equipment smelled very strongly of formaldehyde, things like that. So he says both of those rooms definitely were the embalming rooms. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad they tell people that it was a funeral home because to me, it's one of the prettiest houses we have in Savannah. I think it's one of the nicest decorated. Now, what happened was a group of men bought it before it was a bed and breakfast. One was Joe Namath, the football hero. He had all it did is turn us into a gentleman's club. Well, the city found out about his plan and said, no, I don't think so. So it sat vacant a little bit longer, and then somebody bought it and turned it into the house it is today. Now I'm going to show you this picture where we head to the cemetery. This picture was taken back in October. It was taken here at the Davenport house. And it's taken from this window right here closest to the light there. And it's probably one of the most clearest apparition pictures we've ever seen. And I'm going to pull it up. We're going to just go down the way here so everybody can see it. Pull it up here so everybody can see her. Well, it could be a girl or a boy. I see a little girl. It could be a little boy.
Okay, so when you die, if you're going to be buried, they embalm the body, which means that they remove all the natural fluids that are in the body, blood and
don't make them like that anymore, do they?
No.
And then you like the little police cars. They're cool, aren't they? A little bit, yeah, a little bit different color. One's brown, one's blue. This one has 4 doors.
And
This
a
one has
little
2.
bit of a different shape.
Yep. They're about 6 years difference, I think. Yep. Now, I don't think they put prisoners in there because you imagine, I don't know how they would get the prisoner in there with only 2 doors. Some people. Art design. Yeah, it's not all spread all over the city.
I've seen it all.
You'll see it everywhere. And what's interesting is we like them because they buy old buildings, restore them.
Right.
You know, they actually have a degree in historic preservation, so it's really they do a good job. Yeah, y'all see the Spanish moss mirror? It looks like hair here, don't it? Now this is our cemetery. It's the oldest cemetery in the city. Became a cemetery in 1750. Last person buried in 1853. We used to call it the old brick cemetery. You see the brick wall right here. That's the only one that's left. At one time it had one all the way around the whole cemetery. The brick wall came down in the 1870s. This fence right here was put up in the 1960s to keep vandals out. But between 1870 and 1960 there was no fence at all. And they used it as a park. There are pictures of nannies, late 1800s and early 1900s out here with their children they were watching and enjoying the park. Now we think there's between 10 and 12,000 barrels out here. That's a rough estimate. The city hired a company to come in late 1990s and use that ground penetrating radar. And they're supposed to put a flag on each grave. They're supposed to be here a week. Well, guess what? They're here a month. And they just gave us a rough estimate. And the problem with giving a real good estimate was they found multiple burials. Like somebody was buried one layer, and then the top of it was another body. And I don't know if they did that maybe for, keeping it in one area because there was not much area after that. So I don't know if that's the reason, but they found multiple layers of burials out here.
So, my question
Yeah.
is, so you know how, like, I don't know if any of you guys been to New Orleans, but how
Yeah.
it's family plot?
Yeah, and we have them here too, the family vaults.
They're family plot.
Mhm.
So, I'm guessing whatever's here, that's it, that's done. You want to be buried with your family, let's say you have someone here from the very beginning.
You can't be buried here now.
Okay.
Yeah. The family's kept together in the vaults. We're going to talk about the vaults a little bit up here toward the front so you can show our actual vault what they look like. But yeah, the families would stay together in the vaults. But yeah, there's nobody been buried here since 1853. Now what happened was when General Sherman's army occupied the city, there was 20,000 Union soldiers here at that time. They occupied every square we had and also the cemetery. Because the cemetery had a brick wall around it, this is where they kept their horses and their wagons and their soldiers around. Now what happened was, if you look, you can kind of see a little bit, on the brick wall, halfway down, you'll see actual tombstones on the wall. A lot of the tombstones got broken and damaged. We only have less than 700 tombstones today out here. And I told you how many people are buried out here. So what happened was, the ones that were really broken and damaged, after the soldiers left, they put them on the wall here to protect them. Now they didn't keep records of where people were buried at. And so you see a tombstone out here, it may not actually match the body below. So what happened was when the soldiers left, they asked people here in Savannah, hey, do you remember where your ancestor was buried? Now this is a vault right here. This is the Haversham vault. You know about the Haversham family's old pink house. This is where all the Havershams are buried. In the 1840s, a seamstress was coming home, did a major job. She was really tired, and she saw a colonial man appear right in front of her. And she called this colonial man from the street. Quite intrigued by him. They didn't know that in those days. And sure enough, he was right inside the Haversham vault. We don't know which Haversham it was. It was one of them. And she told that story to her family and friends. Now the way a vault works is there's a door on the front of the vault. You can't see it from here, but the front of the vault is a door. The door will be open. You go down some stairs, and there were shelves on both sides, wide enough to where a casket or a body could be placed. Now a lot of people thought, Okay, I'll write it. Next.
Hey, take it off.
Now the cemetery at one time was where the palm trees are right here. And remember the 1870s when people got the wall down? They moved the swing they waved the sidewalk here. The sidewalk's very uneven because there's caskets still underneath the sidewalk. Now we have seen pictures of where the cemetery once was in those days, and guess what? Right here is all burials. Yep. So where we're standing is all burials. So when you walk in the cemetery, you actually walk on the dead to get into the cemetery. It's quite interesting. Let me show you my last picture I got for you. This was taken in October. This is a really interesting group. We have a pirate fest every year in Taiwan. Yep. And I showed up for my tour and I saw 17 pirates. And I'm like, okay. I'm talking about their fancy costumes too. I'm not talking about pirates. I'm not talking about pirates, you know, like party scene. A friend of our husband was seeing Savannah fireman, and he said one of his first shift he was upstairs, and he was actually in the bathroom, getting ready to go to bed, and he said all of a sudden he heard noises as the stall door slamming, and he said there's no answer, but he gathered up stuff and got on out of there. He said a lot of the firemen don't sleep upstairs. It's really interesting. I come here at night, and I don't ever hardly see any lights on up there. Every once in a while you see a light on. He said they like to stay in the common area out here.
Yeah, they're all gathered right down here.
Yeah, they're too weird upstairs. That's what he said. As soon as our folks come out of the bathroom, we'll make our way from there. I figured they would come. Oh, they just so cold.
Don't be here for a while.
Well, you're talking to him, of course.
It's okay. It's fine. I've always been like that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, my dog. Are they coming? He looks kind of There they are. Oh, just waiting on it. Okay. Okay.
Oh, they're still taking turns.
Okay. Well, maybe he will go handle things.
She was like, ah, we got to handle the whole walk. You go try.
Much more on your judge. You're gonna look at it.
No, not this. This is different. This is kind of different. See, almost like that. Oh, look at that.
I didn't make it sound like it was a scary story.
No, you didn't.
The story.
You didn't.
Oh, I mean, conflict. All I know is ghost last time.
Oh, at the beginning of the movie, you know how instead of being plugged down, it came from that steeple right there. And this is Chippewa Square. That's where he sat at on the bench. There's not a bench there. It's a Hollywood Front. We got everybody. Is our back there?
No, we got broken up.
Okay. Forrest Gump. Yeah, there was 2 benches made, both fiberglass. Tom Hanks was original. I'll tell them if you're a Forrest Gump fan, at the beginning of the movie, after the feather being floated down, it came from the steeple right here, in the Presbyterian. And then straight ahead is Chippewa Square, and that's where he was actually sitting on the bench. There's not a bench there, but there's floats on there. Hollywood Front. Tom Hanks owns the original. But yeah, so that's where Forrest Gump's
Oh, gosh, you know, you got it.
Ah, it's like.
It's gone.
courthouse here. There's a federal cross on one side and the old county cross on this side. Also known as our hanging square. We used to have public hangings here. Now, we're going to tell you about how the first woman hanged in Georgia. Her name was Alice Riley. Alice was an indentured servant. A lot of people don't know what that is, but back in the colonial days, if you could not afford to come across the Atlantic on your own, somebody was in the colony very wealthy, they could pay the voyage for you, and you had to sign a contract to where you were a servant from 5 to 7 years. If you made it through the contract, then you could stay on. and become part of the colony. That's how a lot of our ancestors got here, because that's the only way they could afford to come across. Now, a man named Mr. William Wise arrived here in December of 1733. When you're on River Street, you look across the river at the Weston Hotel. The Weston actually sits on Hutchinson Island. It's an island in the middle of the Savannah River. It don't look like an island. You don't really notice it until an island unless you go across the bridge and then you see it. Now, he arrived here, and he arrived here with a young girl who he pawned off as his daughter, but she really wasn't his daughter. She was a lady of the evening from London. Now, our founder, General Oglethorpe, really did not like him. I thought he was really sketchy, and did something about him he didn't really like. So he said, I'm going to send you over to Hutchinson Island. You're going to live over there on a cattle farm. Well, he brought Alice over from Ireland in 1734, and he was very mean, abusive, just a hateful, hateful man. He had very long hair all the way down his back. Alice's job was to wash his hair twice a week, and then he'd colonize him or a wig. Now, he'd lay on his bed. She had a bucket of water. She'd wash his hair in the bucket of water, and then she hated doing it because he was so mean to her. Well, she fell in love with one of the other indigenous servants named Richard White. Now, back then, indigenous servants were treated like second-hand citizens, had no rights whatsoever, and you were not allowed to be involved with another indigenous servant. So you had to keep the relationship on the down low. Well, Richard really wanted to get married and take off, so he said, I had to figure out a plan. And the plan was they were going to kill Mr. Wise. And what they did was, when Alice was washing his hair, Richard come in, stuck his head in the bucket of water, and drowned him. And then they took off. Well, they got caught about 40 miles outside the city. There was an outpost, and they got put on trial. Now, our founder, General Oglethorpe, had a couple rules for the colony. One rule was there'd be no lawyers allowed here in the colony. He felt that you could defend yourself. So he didn't want any lawyers here. He had a couple other rules. One was no Catholics allowed. He felt if you're a Catholic, you'd be sympathetic to Spanish in Florida. There'd also be no hard spirits like liquor involved. No beer and wine was allowed. And there'd also be no slavery. All those rules ended up kicking him out of the country, out of his colony about 9 years later. But anyway, so what happened was Richard, he went in front of the court. He defended himself. Well, what happened was the court said, well, you're an indentured servant. You have no rights. Everybody knew he was mean. Y'all could have waited out your contract, but no, you had to kill him. So we find him guilty, and you're going to hang. They put him in jail, which is where the CBS sits today. That's where the jail sat for many years. And he hung a couple days later. Now, back in those days when he hung here in the square, you would hang here all day unless somebody claimed the body beforehand. And then if they didn't claim it, then they would take the body off the gallows or wherever the tree where they hung him from, and then that's where they would bury him after that. Now, when it was Alice's turn, they were to deliver back Alice because they didn't want to hang a woman. The colony wasn't even 2 years old, they were 2 years old at that time. But she committed a crime. Well, she informed the court she was pregnant. They sure wasn't going to hang a pregnant woman. And they put her in jail till she produced a child. Sure enough, a few months later, she did produce a little baby boy, and she called him James, and they put the baby up for adoption, and then they hung her a couple days later. Now, with her, she always claimed she was innocent. She said that was Richard's idea to kill Mr. Wise. She went along with it because she was scared for her life. So we don't know if she was innocent or not. But Alice is still here in the square today. People enjoy a nice evening out here relaxing, and all of a sudden they see what appears to be a young girl with kind of reddish colored hair, and it looks like she's walking around, wandering around looking for something. And we think she's out here wandering around looking for her little lost baby. Now, people experience her all the time, and they sometimes report to the police when they see her. They think she's a real woman, but then she disappears into the night. Now, if you look across the square here, the whole row of buildings here goes all the way 1 block. That right there is the first burial ground for the colony of Georgia right there. Only thing I'll tell you it's a burial ground is a little plaque on the wall. This is the first burial ground in Georgia. Now, a lot of things happen over there. A lot of stores come and go. There is one store that had a glass store, and the lady that owned the store said periodically glass would just fly off the shelves. All of us saw like a shadowy figures in the corner. So needless to say, when her lease was up, she decided to go elsewhere. But a lot of people don't stay there. Above there is some lofts, a big tall building. A couple from Connecticut came down, went by with lofts on their top floor. Very nice view from up there. Woman was looking out the window, and all of a sudden a woman's head appeared right in the window. That woman was so scared, she actually had to pry away from the window to get her to the sidewalk to find out what she'd seen. And needless to say, she was so scared they did not buy a loft. But a lot of people live over there and tell you all kinds of different stories. And we do think Alice could possibly have been buried over there. That was a burial ground from 1733 to 1750. For 17 years. When the area filled up was when they went to Colonial Park Cemetery, which we saw that earlier. So we think a lot of people were buried there that hung here. And we also think that a lot of people buried there died of yellow fever because they had a lot of yellow fever epidemics right after General Oglethorpe landed. That's all I say. We have bodies all over our city, here and there, everywhere. So So you never know where y'all live. Y'all might have bodies too. Well, that's going to end my tour tonight, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed it. And I hope y'all learned something. And let me tell y'all where we started at. We started one square up. You can go straight up the sidewalk here.